Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. This is going to be impromptu. I just got out of the theaters, like not even 15 minutes ago, from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and I'm trying to articulate something here, and I'm trying to think about what I feel, and I'm stumped. I'm really stumped. I will say that the film is very good, and it really hits a lot of those emotions that you normally would feel going to a Spider-Man movie. It definitely successfully does that. I'm just speechless. When the credits rolled, I was so speechless. I don't know what to say, man. I am a huge fan of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I think it's an incredible film, or animation, whatever you want to call it. And they did an absolutely killer job with that first movie. So obviously we were going to get a sequel. That was pretty much, determined off the box office success of the first one. Sorry, I can't speak. But I don't know. I mean, for starters, the story's incredible again. I mean, they managed to pull at your heartstrings, in ways that are just super tasteful. It's not something you haven't seen before, family, destiny, determining your own fate, trying to go against people who think that, things that are going to happen to you are set in stone, and going against that. It's not stuff we haven't seen before, but it is fantastically done here. For starters, I guess, would I say this one's better than Into the Spider-Verse? To a degree, yeah, maybe. I really haven't formulated that opinion just yet, but maybe. Highly possible. I mean, if there was potential for a movie in this style to be better than Into the Spider-Verse, this was the one, and they knocked it out of the park. I mean, where do we even begin? The movie opens up with kind of a backstory of Gwen Stacy, whatever you want to call her, the one from the original, from Into the Spider-Verse. And it gives her so much more depth. At first, it wasn't working for me, but towards the very end, right before the credits roll, the intro credits, that's where it really gets you, and you're like, well, if you weren't falling for it, the story and all that, what the story they were trying to tell, if you weren't falling for that at the beginning, at the point where they do the title sequence, oh my god, dude, they get you. And it's like, wow, I've never really thought about it like that before. This film creatively uses the story it's trying to craft and actually do that in kind of a meta real life way. So like, you go to a Spider-Man movie, you kind of know what to expect. There's going to be hardships, there might be death, there's going to be real darkness, but because of that darkness, that's what makes him, such a strong character, because he pulls through in the end and becomes the hero we all know and love. And in this film, it does that sort of, but it's like super gray area. So like, the film's theme is defying destiny, defying fate. There's a set in stone path for Miles to, and he has to follow it, or things are going to hit the fan. And that's what that's when they introduce these canonical events. So like canon, right? So if you deem something not canon and then deem something canon. The film actually intertwines every single Spider-Man movie. You see Tobey in it. Granted, not a cameo, not a presence, but you see a clip of him and Uncle Ben from the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man film, so they connect that back. You see Andrew Garfield holding Gwen Stacy's father when he passes away. This is not spoilers, this is stuff we've already seen before, but they connect that into the film. There's a lot of real-life elements that are connected into the film. They connect Venom with the convenience store lady. The problem is this film intertwines everything, so now everything is canon. Absolutely every film, comic, even the video games. The PS4, PS5 Spider-Man got an appearance multiple times. There's a scene where Miles Morales' roommate is playing the game, and I actually really loved that part, because I was like, oh, hey, look, I played that game. But there's a scene where he's playing the game, and you're like, oh, shit, that's in the universe now. But then they take it a step further, and when you start meeting all of the spider people, which are thousands, I mean, everything you can think of is here. Even if it's just Easter egg, like background characters, they are there, and it's very cool to see. So when you start meeting all these Spider-Man, you actually run into PS4 Spider-Man, and he actually is given a couple of lines in the movie, so he actually has some dialogue, so I love that part too. But The themes here are family, love, trust. Trust is a big one because there's a betrayal of trust. There's dishonesty that is detrimental to our character's, character. And it breaks the relationships previously established. I wouldn't say break, but they're on the brink of breaking, if not broken. But there is kind of a symbolic gesture towards Spider-Gwen and Spider-Man Miles Morales, where trust has been completely shattered. So between those two characters, by the end of the film, the trust is shattered. Maybe not from her perspective, but he is absolutely, I don't trust you, you weren't the friend that I loved and remembered kind of thing. They do hint at romance between the two and love and stuff like that. That really, it was okay. It felt natural. It was just a continuation of the plot from the first film, which introduced that kind of romance, that kind of friendship building. Because at first it was a friendship building thing, right? And they got along real well. Well, here they take it a step further. There's romance involved, whether it be Gwen and Miles or Spider-Man and Spider-Gwen, right? There is love between them for sure, undoubtedly, no question about it. So we'll get a resolution to that in the next one, which brings me to my next point. This is why I'm so stumped on the film. It ends with a Halo 2 level cliffhanger. Things at the very end of the film are not looking bright for Miles, even in the slightest, and they really come out of left field with a twist that makes absolute sense. It has to do with interdimensional things regarding the interdimensional spider that actually came in and bit Miles, which revealed to the audience a very interesting thing that we've never seen in a Spider-Man before. Because typically, you know, they get bit, they become Spider-Man, and that's all that needs to be said, right? Well, here, okay, minor spoilers, so click off the video if you're gonna go watch the film and you don't want anything spoiled. All right, ready? You clicked off? Okay, good, because here comes a big thing. This was a big revelation, and this was the thing that made the film so stand out from the rest of the films. Miles Morales was not supposed to be Spider-Man. And at first you're going to go, okay, this is stupid, you know, he's going to be Spider-Man anyway, blah, blah, blah. But no, he was genuinely not supposed to be Spider-Man, and they explain it in a way that makes the most coherent sense ever. I mean, the writing is super cohesive. It's in your face, and you're just like, this makes sense to me, but it really makes you think, like, damn, they're really doing their own thing. So like I was saying earlier, the film plays with the theme of defying destiny, defying the odds, defying fate, you know, that kind of thing. Like, things are set in stone, they need to go a certain way. If they don't, everything crumbles. Well, this film in itself is defying the destiny of Spider-Man stories. I mean, this thing is truly unique. It is truly unique. It is its own thing. This is the first Spider-Man movie I left, and I was actually contemplating, like, what did I just see? Like, what did I just experience? Not that in a bad way. Very good. Just very perplexed. I don't know how else to put it. Great movie, though. Great film. This movie was made with care, and it's super apparent that it was, because it's just the references, the love, the fans of, like, the Tobey Maguire movies, the Andrew Garfield movies. But my problem is, I gotta take some points away for the cliffhanger, because it was just getting so good. And then, boom, you get the comic book to be continued, which was tasteful, because in comic books, that's typically how stories go. You have to wait for the next issue, and at the end of the previous issue, you get the to be continued. So that was tasteful, and it just felt right. But it just made me, leaving the theaters, like, we could have used another hour on that movie, even though it was a 2-hour runtime. We could have used a 3-hour movie for this film in order for us to truly get, like, the full experience. But that's not a bad thing. And I'm excited to see Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse whenever it comes out, whenever it gets announced, because that is the title of the next movie. It's already confirmed. At the end credits, it says Miles Morales will be back in Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. So Beyond the Spider-Verse will be the final film to a trilogy. I don't know if they'll go after that and make it more of a saga, but if they are aiming for a trilogy, that's where it'll end, and I am more than excited to go into the theaters. I wish it was already out, or it was coming out in, like, the next month or two, because, dude, I'm sold. I am so sold. They've got my tickets for the next one. Very good movie. Very interesting. It will definitely make you think. And it plays around with so many adult themes, parenthood, raising a child, letting the child be free in their own individual person, fate and destiny, as previously mentioned a few times, and how, you know, people need to defy that sometimes and not let others control what aspect of their lives and where it's headed is, you know, ultimately going to end up. And it's just wow. Yeah, wow. I mean, when the credits rolled, I just simply said, wow. I'm not a fan of cliffhangers, so for me, I've got to deduct some points. Not saying the film is bad, though, because of that. And the animation. So we've been talking about the story the whole time. The animation's fantastic. You know, you get multiple different renditions. There's a Lego world. There's an old-fashioned, like, original Spider-Man comic book world. There's, like, this little polka dotty, I don't know how to explain it, world. Kind of that Mumbani, that world. That was already previously mentioned in the trailers, so no spoiler there. And you get to explore that for a few minutes. Then you go to 2099, where Miguel resides, and you get to kind of experience that world and, like, the clubhouse as it's referenced in the film. You get to experience, like, what he's built in terms of, like, a spider army or spider alliance or whatever you want to call them. Yeah, I mean, this is such an expansive film. Great callbacks, great Easter eggs. And then the villain, surprisingly, at the very beginning, you're like, oh, just a regular day, you know. They even call him the villain of the week. Yeah, the villain of the week. And it's Spot. His name is just Spot. And he's actually a new villain that came from the events of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And they do it in a very tasteful way. At first, you're going to laugh at him. Everybody in my theater, including myself, did. He's goofy. He's silly. At first, I thought he was just a Spider-Man that, you know, was trying to do criminal activities, but was just so bad at it because he was so good at being a good person. But no, that is not what it ends up being at all. Maybe I just misread the trailers. Maybe I just misperceived something in there. So the villain at first is goofy. He's comical. He's just going to make you think, oh, you know, whatever. But then they start giving him depth. And this team, I don't know who the writers are for the team, but they're having so much fun with the film, but they're making sure that it all makes sense. It all makes sense. And by the midpoint of the film, you're going to be like, yo, this villain is not to be trifled with. He doesn't care about anyone. He's out to get everyone, at least Spider-Man, you know, obviously, because of the events in which made him a villain, which you'll see that and you'll go, oh, so he's a villain crafted from Miles Morales' actions. Well, it's not going to be a good villain, right? Like, oh, this feels shoehorned. No, not even close. Honestly, I thought that at first. I was like, oh, this is a shoehorned villain just for the sake of a new movie. No. I mean, the way they built him up was fantastic. Now, there is a little bit of shoehorning because it's like off-screen stuff that happens in the first film that creates this character, but not very much. He is actually in the first film. He's the guy that gets hit in the head with a bagel. So that was kind of goofy. It was fun to turn a joke into something far more than just, you know, a comic relief moment from the first film. But very solid villain. I mean, I don't know how they're going to stop him. Because, like I said, this movie ends on a cliffhanger, so he's still running rampant by the end of the movie. They do not catch him. And I don't know how they're going to, the way they set up his powers and, you know, his motivations. So, yeah, I don't know how they're going to catch him. But what a fantastic movie. I was sold. The voice acting was fantastic. The cameos were fantastic. The characters were rich. We see Peter again, the mentor from the first film. And he has a kid with Mary Jane. I think we saw that in the trailer, so that's not too much of a spoiler. And they do play around with that joke a little too much for me, but it was still cute. You know, it wasn't like, oh my God, stop running this joke. You know, it wasn't that at all. It was just kind of like, okay, you know, we've seen enough. Let's move on. This movie is just built for fun, obviously. First and foremost, it is fun. It is really fun. But as a continuation of Into the Spider-Verse, it's deep. Like I said, it uses tropes, it uses things we have seen before, but it just puts a spin on everything. Towards the end of the film, before the cliffhanger, huge plot twist. I mean, you kind of start picking up on it, right? When Miles is talking to his mom, Rio, you start picking up on it, and you're like, something's off here, and the writing is so damn good because it lets you know without actually over explaining it until it's ready to be over explained and stated front and center. And it makes sense. Like I said, the interdimensional spider thing is kind of the explanation for how this plot twist happens. Miles goes to a completely different dimension, not even the one he's supposed to be in, because of the DNA that came from Spider 42 from the first film. And it's a world in which no Spider-Man inhabits. So it is just corrupt, dark, messed up, hopeless, and the characters that you meet, let's just say they don't hold back and they don't pull any punches, and this isn't going to be a world they can just rip Spider-Man out of. It is super dark, and it just makes you go, oh shit. I'm stumped. I'm speechless. I loved it. It was amazing. Don't get me wrong. But it was just, it really made you think, and it really defied the expectation I had going into a Spider-Man film. And I'm glad it did, because it really makes you think, and it really gets you pumped for what's going to happen next. If I were to rate it, I'd have to give it a 95%. I think this was a solid film. Animation was perfect. Story was amazing. Everything was creative. Everything was fun. Much more needed depth. A little bit of darkness, mainly towards the end. Even a little bit sprinkled, in the middle. And the film sets up for what I believe will be an amazing adventure in the next one. And considering they already have the title for the next film, Beyond the Spider-Verse, they've got it planned out. So I don't expect them to flop with the next one. I think they've got it in the bag. They've got some solid writers on their team. The production is just very well done for an animated movie. And Sony's got another banger on their hands, man. I think a lot of people are going to appreciate this. Now, I think the cliffhanger will be a little divisive, unfortunately, because for me, I'm not big on cliffhangers, but if they do a Halo 2, Halo 3, big cliffhanger, huge payoff, and just what will be, hopefully, one of the best Spider-Man movies of all time. Spider-Man, I guess you'd call it. I don't know. I mean, they're not pulling any punches with this one. They're really going all out. They took a risk, and I think it totally pays off. This risk was absolutely well-deserved and well-delivered, and it paid off. So yeah, that's going to wrap up my thoughts on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Catch me here on the channel next time when we talk about Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. And I might even do like a little retrospective on Into the Spider-Verse prior to Beyond the Spider-Verse. Just so I have all three films on the channel, because I'd like to talk about Into the Spider-Verse again, especially watching it after the sequel, just to kind of see how many callbacks, how much world building and character building that they have done since the first film. Anyway, that's it. Peace out, y'all. Thanks for watching if you made it this far, and you guys have a great rest of your day.